residents of the area, of my family, so I am deeply rooted in this area in many ways. We have come around to look at this again. We looked at facilities a while back. It was in 2014. Things were decided then. The short term was accomplished at that time. The long term was not. But the time has come again to look at it, because there are some things about our facilities that need some love, both of them. But we want your input. We want the public's guidance in this. Some of the positives as to why we've come around once again is that we have made the district on both parts of the district, the Malvern side as far as the tax base and the Nishna Valley side, they will be equal within a year. That was very important, to have you financially equal, for this side to have their bond paid off. So we got that accomplished. The other part is that there are some, like I've already mentioned, there's some things that need to be done. There's some pricing items that need to be done. And so we need to look at those. Construction costs are never going to go down. And I know this year's been full of challenges. Every year is. Anything you do with looking into the future, you don't know what's going to come on your doorstep. This year was a biggie with a pandemic. But I must shout out, and I know some of our staff are here, and our students and our parents, how we handled that and came through it was just magnificent. We had school all year, we were not shut down, and we got another graduating class well prepared for their future. Now we need to look at our facilities and have it well prepared for the following generation. So give us input, give us direction as a board. We are committed to going forward, because we know we need to make these forward steps. And we're all behind doing it for the little ones, the children in our care, here and now and in the future. So thank you once again. Have a good evening. Once it's all done, and let your voices be heard. Thank you.
That sums it up. Any questions? No, thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Neil. I'm with Alley Pointer Architecture. This is the 6th community meeting that we've had in this process. So a lot of this information you've seen. For those of you who have not been to a meeting here, I'm going to kind of breeze through some of the early stuff on our process. But if you really want to go back and check it out, there is a website that you can link off the school's website that you can see all these past meetings. They've all been recorded, as this one is here tonight. I have Daniel Conway with me with Alley Pointer Maquetto also. Lots of times you see him on Zoom if you participated that way, but we're lucky enough to have him here tonight in person. My clicker's not working there, Daniel. Okay, just our topics we're going to cover tonight. Just a quick recap. We're going to go through the financial piece. We do have the school's financial consultant here, Matt Gillespie with Piper Sandler. I've got a quick enrollment analysis. It's the same information I showed last time. We're going to go through the survey results and kind of some analysis of the whole big picture of all the surveys we've done and how they stack on top of each other. We're going to go back through these ideas on where we want to go, these different options. We've got then one more survey we'd like you to do. Then we're going to talk about schedule and answer any other questions that you have. So this is your team. We don't have anybody from Boyd Jones here tonight. That is the construction manager that the school has hired. We also have a couple of engineers on board with ETI Engineering, Larson Engineering from a civil engineering standpoint, and then also you guys as an East Mills Community School District, very important part of that team. The goals from this process, security and safety of all students and staff, provide environments that enhance and improve the educational experience for all students and staff, maximize existing square footage and space, enhance community pride in the schools, move forward with a community-based solution, and then any others for discussion. We've kind of taken all the comments we've gotten and we've helped identify some objectives here. An East Mills first attitude, make decisions that provide the best education possible for the students of East Mills and ensure the long-term fiscal viability and responsibility of the school district. Our process, I kind of beat this over and over and over, but there's 3 steps to this. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? How do we get there? So with the where are we now piece, that's the status quo, that's the baseline, that's your 2 existing buildings, your existing conditions, anything that's identified over the next 10, 15 years that needs to be addressed. End of lifespan of utility systems, heating and cooling, all of those things. That's the where are we now? The where do we want to be? That's where we're at with these different ideas to stimulate discussion. We keep taking the comments and we look at those and bring them back to you every one of these meetings. And then the how do we get there piece, that's going to be up to the school board if they get a recommendation from this facilities committee on how to move forward. Which option do we want to move forward with? And what does that look like from an implementation? Is that a bond issue? Is that pieces that you take off in chunks every 5 years? That's the how do we get there piece. We have 8 steps. Assess current deficiencies and needs. Again, that's the where are we now, provide comparable information, any operational deficiencies. With 2 campuses, you know, with the mileage you have apart from each other, there's just some operational deficiencies there. Educating a diverse community committee. So again, all of you that are coming to these meetings, participating on Zoom, watching the meetings, answering the surveys, creating these options and scenarios. We've established some focus groups. We're not going to go into that too much tonight, but we have taken some student surveys, some staff surveys, and some parent surveys that are also new to this process. Looking at the sources and uses of funding. Again, that's with our financial consultant over here. We want to have a master plan for implementation. We want to know what that's going to cost and how are we going to go about biting off those chunks of that to get that done. So we don't want to do something that's going to say build you into a corner. We don't want to do something now that you're going to wish you would have done differently in 10 years or that you're going to have to redo in 10 years. That's why when we want to come up with this master plan and help you implement this plan. And then we have these this facilities committee, and that takes all of this information and then is going to make a recommendation or advise the school board on how they think we should move forward based on all the community input from this process. So the financial assessment, we're going to jump right into that with Matt Gillespie and Piper Sandler here. These are just some of the sources and uses that we have to look at in a school system here with your voted Pebble, your save dollars, which is your penny sales tax or your silo tax, if you've been around long enough in the school system to hear them called that. He's going to show you specifically some options if we do property tax, a bond, levy, and then there's also options for energy audits, utility rebates, and then of course any private donations or funding that we may want to look at.
All right, well, good evening. I think I've seen most of you here at one of the meetings. My name is Matt Gillespie from Piper Sandler in Des Moines, and I'm going to go out over the packet that was handed out to you. For those of you that were here at one of the prior meetings that I was at, this packet is mostly the same. There are a couple changes, a couple additions, and one sort of correction, which I'll explain when we get there. But on this first page, the first page of the packet, you can see there's kind of 3 tables there. So the top table is just showing us historic tax rates of the 2 districts before you were consolidated up through 2021. And you can see on that worksheet that both historic property areas of Malvern and Missionah Valley were up in the $14 to almost $16 tax range back in 2012. And then that has slowly ratcheted downward to this current fiscal year that we're almost through at the end of June with $950 and $1160 with the 2 districts. Now the difference between them is the debt. So for those of you that weren't here or didn't remember when the districts got married years ago, the debt was left with the historic Nishna property. So those property owners have been paying for the old bond, and that bond will be paid off a year from right now. So that's when the two prior districts will be completely equal, same tax rate. Everything that happens to one happens to all from that point forward. But you can see the little box that was sort of added that wasn't there before. You can see the prior districts, the levy of Malvern, which doesn't have the bond, for this year is $9.52. So if there was no bond at all, everybody would be paying $9.52. So if we took that levy rate and added $2.70, which is what the bond levy is assumed to be, that would take the total levy to $12.23, which is a rise from where it is currently. But you can see in the shaded area up at the top, your tax levy, no matter which district you lived or live in from before, the tax levy was higher than that from 2015 and beyond, going backwards. That's not to say that you should want or pay a higher levy now, but it's just showing you that you have been paying that levy in the past and higher. So increasing that levy, if that's what the community chooses to do, is not putting you at some sort of unprecedented level. The middle table, which is showing what's up on the screen there, you see those are the fiscal year 21. So we're in fiscal year 21 now. Those are the levies of districts that are in this general area of the state, which also then includes at the top the highest levy rate in Perry, $2 or $20.55, and the lowest in the state, Remsen Union, who does not pay for an entire K-12 district, $8.04. They're shared with Marcus, Merritt, and Cleghorn. So where you guys are, the Nishna folks, 1168 this year, the Nishna Valley folks, excuse me, Malvern, I got the valley in there, I was told not to just say Nishna, and Malvern at 952. Of course, again, just to reiterate, the bond will go away a year from now, which means that if all other things were equal, continuing forward, the levy rate would just continue to be $9.52. Of course, it does fluctuate from year to year based on many, many things that are input into it. But that is lower, significantly lower, of course, than those that are shaded, the districts that are contiguous to your district. Glenwood at 1598, and then Red Oak, Trainer, Riverside, and Fremont Mills. So even if you were to add the bond and went to 1223, you still would actually be, again, if everything else remained constant, you still would actually be below Fremont Mills by about a nickel, and significantly below Glenwood, Red Oak, etc. The bottom table just shows you the breakout of the types of property within each historical part of the district, if that's of interest to you. The page on the back of that side is showing you what a $2.70 bond might generate if it was only the $2.70. And we're not going to spend much time on this one, but you see in the bottom left-hand corner, about $14 million. That's what would be generated from a 20-year bond issuance with a $2.70 tax levy. But we're going to look at the next page and spend a few more minutes talking about this one. This one in the middle of the page under the fat arrow, for those of you that have the printed copy, you see there the tax levy rate is closer to $4.05. But the district would presumably use other sources, which could be sales tax, could be couple, or could be changing other levies. The district, the board has the authority and the ability to change different levies in different years at different times. So for example, and I'm not saying this is, I'm not committing the board to doing this exact thing, but what's very common when a new bond comes on for many Iowa schools, there's a fund called the management fund, which is oftentimes has extra cash in it and can probably get many districts through several years of costs. And that is funding early retirement programs and some insurance costs of the district. So if the district has been levying a tax to put extra cash in that fund, which again is very common, if they have enough built up in the fund that they could lower or stop altogether levying in that fund, we couldn't commit them to doing that for 20 years, certainly, but they do have the ability to do it for a few years, and they could have a reliable source of offset there. So in this particular example, you see under that fat arrow, the tax levy at about $4.05, but then the table on the right side of that page is showing the offset that could get the tax levy down to this $2.70 level that we're talking about here. So that would take, beginning initially, somewhere around $470,000 of offset. Again, it could be PEPAL monies, it could be sales tax monies, it could be other adjustments to levies, or it could be a combination of all those, which is probably most likely. But as property values rise, which they're not guaranteed to do, but they do over long periods of time, they do rise, it would continue to take less and less money to still keep that tax levy at that consistent $2.70. Now, by showing you this tonight, are we saying that the school board, if this was approved, would never levy $2.74, or they would never levy $2.61? No, this is an example of what the board could do, what the board would like to do, but it's certainly not any kind of a guarantee. But they do have the means to make this happen, at least over the next 5+ years, where we can fairly accurately forecast the budget. Over a 20-year period of time, no one can forecast the budget for that period of time. But what we see in the bottom left-hand corner of that page, underneath the tables, is the total that might be able to be produced, and in this case, just around $21 million. So with a $4.05 gross levy, of which the property owners might pay around $2.70 of, that could fund upwards of $21 million of projects. If you go to the next page, actually the last 2 pages are very similar. They're still created for the old historic districts. I want to make sure to reiterate, I'm not sure that I did last time, but I think you guys all get this. Everybody would be paying, let's assume it's $2.70 for this discussion tonight. Everybody would be paying $2.70. There is no more Nishna Valley and no more Malvern. You're finally married, and that discussion and that frame of mind needs to go away. Period. Whether you have a bond issue or not, that mindset needs to go away. I don't live here, but I know how it goes. I go to schools all over the state. You are one district, you are one community, so that has to go away. But we're still discussing it tonight because there has been a tax difference between the 2 districts. So on this first page, and the difference is up at the top in the title. It's hard to see up there, but I think it's green or red. I'm colorblind. And it says former Nishna property. So for those of you that live in the former Nishna Valley district, you have been paying recently, and this is the change from the last time I was here. What I had here before was accurate too, but it depended on which year we were talking about. Initially, I started pulling data from a couple years ago. This is now the current year. You are paying, you actually already paid, I hope you all paid your taxes already. You are paying $2.15 this year for the bond from the old Nishna Valley district. So if there was a new bond that took the tax levy to $2.70, the folks from Nishna Valley would only be paying 55 cents more than they have been accustomed to paying at least this year. And the tax levy in the last couple years has been pretty similar to what you've been paying this year. It fluctuates from one year to the next. Now that's not to say that you're only paying 55 cents. You'd be paying $2.70, but you've already been paying roughly $2.15. So that's where the 55 cents comes in here. And that number is different than, like I said, in prior discussions. But what we see then on this page is what would 55 cents mean to a property owner that lives within the school district. And you see the residential property, commercial property, and ag property up at the top. I'm just going to pull out the $100,000 residential. That's the easiest one to look at. And again, for those of you that have seen me before, you've heard this discussion, but it's really important that you understand it, because if you or your neighbor or your family or your friends are making the decision about these types of infrastructure projects based solely on what you think it's going to cost you, which I hope that's not all you're thinking about. You should be thinking about what does the district really need it, and how would it help students, how would it help the community, etc. But if you're basing it solely on how much it might cost you out of your own pocket, it's really important that you understand this worksheet. Because for most people, the amount you dream up in your head is not accurate. And that's not because anyone doesn't know or anyone's stupid or anything like that. It's just because most people just don't do this very often. You don't actually sit down and really get down into your property taxes. But it is actually quite simple. So what you see here is that those valuations of homes, and of course you have homes that are assessed at more than 300,000 and you have some that are assessed at less than 40,000. This is just trying to create a range of what most property within this district would fall within. If you have that $100,000 home, and this is the assessed value of the house. So it's not the market value, it's not what you think it's worth, or not what your neighbor sold their house for. It's just what the assessor says. Whether the assessor's right or wrong, it's what they say. And if you begin at $100,000, many people would take that 55 cents and apply it to the $100,000, because we're always talking about $1,000 increments of property value, which are mills. They used to be called mills. That 100,000 times the 56% rollback. So rollback is a percentage that each fall is determined by the legislature or the Legislative Services Agency, and it's applied to the following year's taxation. So this number does change. It may go to 57, it might drop to 55, etc. But it doesn't change dramatically, usually in any given year or any shorter period of time. So that $100,000 home is going to be taxed at 56.4% of its value, beginning in 1 month. That's beginning July 1. So July 1 is the first day of the new fiscal year. So for fiscal year 22, all property taxes in Iowa are based off of this 56% number for residential property. Doesn't matter what county, what school district, what city, doesn't matter. It's all calculated the same way. That $100,000 home, you can see also with homestead credit. I think most of you probably live in your primary residence. You wouldn't get to claim the homestead credit if you own a rental property or if it's your vacation home. I don't think there's too many vacation homes in your district, but you certainly could have rental homes that you own 2 or 3 houses. Only your primary house gets the homestead credit. And that's only if you went to the county courthouse and filed for it, which most people have done. So that $100,000 home is going to be taxed at $51,559. And as I said earlier, that's $1,000 increments would be 51.559 times the 55-cent additional tax. This is again for the Nishnah Valley people. That's going to cost those people about $28 a year more than what they've already been paying. And that is generating, again, that roughly $21 million for the school district. Then you can see commercial property and you can see ag land. And we're going to go to the next page and we'll go into some more depth. But of course, the next page is the more dramatic change, and that's the Malvern people. Now, these two worksheets are identical. It's just one shows the 55-cent increase, one shows the $2.70. So for Malvern, those property owners haven't been paying the debt service because that's just what you agreed on when you consolidated. So on the consolidation ballot years ago, it specifically said, should we get married? And if we do, the debt stays with Nishnah Valley. And you voted yes, or that's what the majority of people voted. So that's why it has been kept separate. It wasn't a school board decision or a superintendent decision or a county board of supervisor decision. It was your decision, or at least the people that lived there at that time. You could have voted no to the ballot, and that would have rejected that, and you would have went on your merry way in some other way. So Malvern folks, you would actually see a real $2.70 increase. And now I'm also talking about just the debt service fund. So the debt service fund would go to $2.70 for everybody because you're one district beginning next year finally. That doesn't mean that your total tax would go up to $2.70, although logically it would. But the school does have other ways that they may adjust levies, or just the formula that the state provides can also result in the levy changing. So even adding $2.70 to the overall school levy may only result still in a $2.65 increase, because maybe the general fund part of the budget decreased by 5 cents, or the opposite. Maybe overall levy goes up, the tax levy goes up by $2.75, because maybe the general fund portion goes up by 5 cents. That's unrelated to the bond. And likewise, the city, if you live in town, the county, the community college, they can also be changing their tax levy rates for various reasons. So your total tax out of pocket could go up or down more than what we're talking about because of those other changes that are unrelated to this. We're just talking about the bond only. So if the tax is going to go up $2.70, here for that $100,000 home, taxed at the same rate, $51,559, but when you multiply that times $2.70 instead of 55 cents, it's about $139 per year, or about $11.60 per month, in order to generate that $21 million for the school district. The commercial property is similar, but there's no homestead credit and the rollback isn't as significant. But we do want to look at the agricultural property because, of course, you are a heavily weighted agricultural district. And what you see here, and this has changed from the last time I was here, the East Mills part has not changed, but I added some other examples to help people grasp what it could mean to you, and what it wouldn't mean to you also. So in that agricultural property section, which is the top of the bottom, or the bottom of the top half of the page, you see in bold the 1,553 number. So that's the average assessed value of 1 acre of agricultural land in Mills County last year. We don't know what the new number is yet, because it hasn't been published, but that's the most recent number we know. I assume that the new number is not going to be wildly different. Could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but it's going to be in that range. But you also see now the low, the high, and the mid-range across the state. The lowest ag value is in Decatur County, $526 per acre of assessed land. The highest is in Grundy County, $1,827. And then kind of the middle range, just coincidentally, is one of your neighbors in Montgomery County, $1,179. Now remember, this is the assessed value. It is certainly not the market value. For those of you that own ag land, you know that this is not what you would sell that land for today. And I probably said it last time, but if you're going to sell it for this price, let me know. I'm going to run right down here and buy a whole bunch of your land. But your land is probably being sold for somewhere between $5,000 plus. I don't know what the market value is here in the state. I've seen just recently just timberland being sold in Southeast Iowa for $5,000 to $6,000. That's not even tillable land. So this is not the market value. And that's a big, big difference. Many people, when we talk about taxes going up, whether it's for a bond or whether it's for a city project or a county project, they start these calculations in their head using the market value of their house or of their farmland or their business, their commercial property, etc. But we don't do that. We use the assessed value, and then there's also rollback applied. So looking at Mills County, the 1,553, there was rollback, or there is rollback this upcoming year of 84%. So that $1,500 assessed value acre is going to be taxed at $1,305. So we're still talking about $1,000 increments. So that's 1.305 times the $2.70 increase would be on a per acre basis about $3.52 per year, or about 29 cents per month per acre. And then you go down to the boxes at the bottom, and I'm looking at the top left of the boxes at the bottom. This box was there before, so you've seen this in the past. But just picking out randomly the 320 acres of land, if you owned that average land in this county, and you own 320 acres, that $3.52 would be costing you about $1,100 per year increase if the tax goes up $2.70 to generate the $21 million. And then you see some additional boxes. So the one just to the right of that, how many acres does it take for somebody that owns residential or commercial property to pay the same amount that that person would pay that owns 320 acres of ag land? And you can see there, somebody that owns a $100,000 home would be paying the same tax as if they owned about 39 acres of land. If that home is assessed at $200,000, it'd be the equivalent of about 82 acres. And then for commercial property, that $150,000 commercial property, which could be the barber shop, the car dealership, the bank, whatever, the grocery store, that $150,000 property is paying the same taxes as about 103 acres of land, and a commercial property worth $500,000 is paying the same taxes as about 344 acres of ag land. And then you look at the top of the bottom boxes, so above the dark line, if the district were to raise taxes, in this case by $2.70, and if you own 320 acres, which again, I'm just pulling that out because I think that's about the average size of a true family farm, maybe a little bit larger, but it's in that area. So I'm not talking about those of you or the others that aren't here maybe that are these mega commercial farmers. They may own 10,000 acres. I'm not really too worried about them. They could probably, they may not want to, but they could probably afford the tax increase. I'm more concerned about the normal person who lives in this district, whether it be the normal farm landowner or the normal residential property owner. So this is where you see the difference. In this case, I put here 4 different districts. All 4 districts, the person owns 320 acres, and in all 4 districts, the school district is raising the tax by $2.70. The difference is the assessed value of the land, the value of that land. And this would be true, I could put the same thing in here for the value of the home. It'd be similar. But you can see that if this bond issue were to pass, and the district levied $2.70, the average farmer of that 320 acres within the old Malvern district is going to pay about $1,128. But if the school district in Decatur County, which for the most part would probably be Leon, they would, or excuse me, Central Decatur in Leon, that same $2.70 increase for 320 acres would only cost that person about $382 because the value of the land is much, much lower. And in Montgomery, about $856, and Grundy County, not too much more, but about $1,326 versus your $1,128. And then the very bottom there, what if you calculated this incorrectly? Now, obviously, there's lots of ways somebody could make a mistake or somebody could not know what they're doing. But there's one way that I have found over 21 years of doing this that's the most common error. And that's for the person that owns ag land to begin with their market value, which is, you cannot do that. But if you did, and I just assumed a market value of $5,000, I don't know what it is, but I just put 5,000, you can see down there. So if you began with the market value and you divided that by 1,000, obviously you get 5. 5 times the $2.70, $13.50 per acre times 320 acres, if that was what you owned, that'd be about a $4,300 a year increase versus what's true to be about a $1,100 increase. So you can see where that difference is. So if you hear people, if you yourself thought this, if you're an ag land owner, or you hear other people in the community talking about a $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 a year increase, they are wrong, or they own an enormous amount of property. And again, for those people, again, not that I'm trying to be cynical or not care about them, but they're doing okay. It's the normal person that I want to talk about. And there's no average family farmer that is going to be paying $10,000 to $20,000 increase per year if the bond issue were to pass. And that's true no matter what county and what school district you live in. That's true. So put your situation into these worksheets, whether you're from the Prior Nature Valley or the Prior Malvern, and you can determine what the tax might really affect, how it might affect you. So any immediate questions that you guys have about that? Otherwise, there'll be a question and answer period as well. All right. Back over.
Thank you. So the good news is at a $2.70 increase, that takes you to $12.23. You can see where your averages have been from the old Malvern and the old Mission Valley side. And you can see where you are at. Being on my slide. Thanks, buddy. You can see where you compare then to the other school districts around you with that new $2.23 rate. So Mr. Hood and I have done a number of these, him in his own role as superintendent, and then me as an architect, and we've never been able to sit here. We've had this conversation. We've never been able to sit here and show you a $20 million project and that you're going to be 49 cents cheaper if you're on the Mission Valley side, or less than $1 increase in the old Malvern.
to be able to get that type of an input into your school system. And then you remain underneath all of these school districts around you from a levy rate. That's pretty incredible. Just a little bit on the cost of weighting. We've taken some construction cost history, and we're using 2019 as our last good year of construction data. 2020 had some construction numbers that were up and down. So if you took a $20 million project from 2019, that was 14.6 million in 2011, and will be 24.8 in 2025, just using some very standard cost inflation numbers. Now, building materials are kind of up and down right now, but we are anticipating that's going to level off here. But that's where you're at from a construction and a dollar standpoint. Most school districts, they can't increase their budget in that 5-year time frame. So what you get in the end is less if you wait 5 years. Enrollment analysis. We've showed you this a number of times. This is your 10-year trend. You can see down around 2016-17 school year at that 435 students versus the 501 from 2011-2012. But that did start to level off there in that 2016 school year. Your open enroll out has continued to increase, however, over that 10-year time frame. Your certified enrollment has dropped by 74 students, and your open enroll out has increased by 67 students. So you have 147 open enroll outs right now, and your current enrollment is around that 427 number. Yes.
You're saying that 147 kids in this district are going to other districts?
Yes.
Volunteer, right?
That's what open enrollment is. Yes.
Has anybody ever questioned them or had an exit interview with them to see why they're doing that? Has anybody ever asked?
Generally, when you do those type of surveys, you may not get an answer back because they're already gone. A lot of those open enrollments, those kids have never stepped into this district.
I'd send a letter to them and say, why are you doing this? If you're getting bad, but boy, it sure be nice to know from them why they're doing it.
A lot of it's.
That's 150
convenience.
people, man.
Yeah, and we also know the cost. It's been going on.
How many are coming into our district?
So I've got some additional charts I can show you on that, and then unless you wanted to say something.
Back to your question. Previous district had same kind of thing with a large number of students that exited.
Previous what?
Previous school district I was at.
Oh,
Okay. And we held meetings. We offered free babysitting. We fed them. We sent out surveys, etc. Less than 10% showed up. Or
where was that?
Keokuk. So
I would say somebody's not happy with the product. That's just what I would say.
So you're right on, John, and we're trying to get into that information just a little bit more.
Man, I tell you, I'm no wizard, but boy, I'd have a meeting with those people when they do that and say, why are you doing this? You need that information, man.
But didn't you find out that they were, a lot of them going west because that's where the job market was? And so they're just west. That's where the job market was, so they were taking their kids the direction they were going.
And a lot of them, their kids have lived, they've lived in Glenwood, they've bought property in our district and continue to take their kids back to Glenwood.
They left them at,
Everybody in my neighborhood goes to Trainer. Okay, so that's all I can tell you.
So John, this chart here shows you kind of graphically by region within your school district and what school they are going to for that 147 open enroll out. You can see you've got within Malvern 55, over here right on the edge, Silver City road area 23, up in Silver City 13. Those are all going to Glenwood. In Emerson, you've got 6 that go to Red Oak, up around Henderson, you've got Riverside and Trainer. You know, those are just kind of the numbers that show you by area where those people are going. This pie chart shows you the open enroll out by the actual district. Glenwood's obviously capturing almost 100 of that 147 students. So people are going west. I think it would be safe to assume there is some convenience of just travel to your work if you're living in that area and where you're taking your kids. And then the question that you asked on the open enroll in, here's your open enroll in total by where they're coming from. And then this is your open enroll by grade. It's pretty split, you know, around.
What's the number? I can't tell a number that's coming in.
You have 15 kids coming from Glenwood, 8 coming from Fremont Mills, 8 coming from Red Oak, and 1 coming from Lewis Central. That's on your open enroll in.
32 that.
And then again, this chart shows you by grade where they're coming, like, you know, little kids through seniors. So it's pretty well dispersed all the way around.
So the open enrollment number that you're talking about, that's the net difference of the 140 whatever, right?
No, that's
So 110-ish. So each one of those kids is taking away just shy of $8,000, whatever district they go to. That's the state aid. That money follows that kid wherever they go. Somebody could open enroll from here to West Des Moines School District. That's what they want to do. They can do that. They have mom work in West Des Moines and drove there every day. That's what they can do. So that open enroll out, the net difference multiplied times roughly $8,000. Think about how much that is. If it was 147, which I count, that's not the right number because I did it on that number, but that number alone would be $980,000 a year that is not coming to this district that could be paying for teachers, an extra science teacher, a German teacher, another coach. It could be paying for 2 custodians to be better or whatever it is. That's money that's not here. So it's not that building it, they will come. A lot of people say that, and maybe some of these guys have said that's not true. You don't do these things because if you build it, they will come. But you do build it so you can hope that they come. Because if you can retain some of them, and you're not going to retain all of them, as somebody said, some of their parents just work in Glenwood. It's just convenient. That's all that it is. It's not that they don't like it here. It's just easy for their parents to take them there. But some of them are leaving because they don't like it in any district. So if you can have nicer facilities, and I'm not suggesting you vote yes or you vote no, that's your business. I don't live here. But the nicer facilities, it is in fact a business. This is a game. You have to have the facilities in order to retain these kids. And by doing it, in that case, if you really had 147, which again, that's not the exact correct number, you know, you're losing roughly just shy of $1 million a year. And those 147 kids, because you could see that they're widely dispersed, so it's not like they're all in 12th grade. Because if there was 140 kids extra in 12th grade, you'd need, what, six more classes or whatever, 6 more teachers. They're not, they're dispersed pretty equally. So if you added 3 or 4 kids to each level of the grade, it's not like you need an extra teacher. So that extra 980,000 is literally extra money that could be spent on, again, some upkeep of the buildings, paying better wages to your staff, to retain them, all of those types of things.
So you're saying if we do this, that open enrollment would be reduced?
I'm not saying it would be reduced because I don't have a crystal ball. I'm saying it's a possibility, and in many districts, I'm not promising you anything. Because maybe the high school principal, I don't know if he or she's here, maybe everybody hates that person and people just can't stand it. And that's why they leave. It could be that. It could be that the football team just keeps losing and losing and losing, and people just want to get the hell out of here. There's lots of reasons, but I'm saying it could be the reason that people move here or keep their kids here if you have those facilities. If you could not pay any extra and not have to move, if you could somehow magically transport yourself to Waukee or Urbandale or Johnston schools, you probably would, other than this is a small town feel, which a lot of people desire that. But they have lots more classes in those types of student classes for those districts, because they have lots of money, because there's lots of property value there.
I think frankly, the big question here, I mean, you're going through a lot of financial stuff, but the question is location. I mean, that's what we're really talking about, the elephant in the room. You know, what we're getting down to is where's this place going to be? And I'm telling you that in my area, I did a GPS today in Malvern from my house, 17 miles. And you can add 3 of that to get to Henderson. I'm 14 miles from Oakland. I'm 15 miles from Trainer. And when a kid forgot a pair of shorts, you know, that morning, and you got to run to school and back, that's the kind of stuff that's gonna, so I mean, your finances look good to me. I think you could, you know, save a lot of time by just getting into where's this place gonna be? You know, is it gonna be in Malvern, or are you gonna keep this place, or what are you gonna do? You know, and I think that's really the crux of the matter. And this is what, as far as I can see, and I don't say this, I mean, I think you might have reason to do this, but in my area, I think that you're kind of throwing people under the bus in the Henderson area from a distance standpoint. I mean, that's just my.
Did you
ethics
GPS?
in school? I wouldn't want them. I mean, if they all had to go to Malvern, I mean, I'd take them to, you know, some other school. I mean, really. So I mean, you're a prisoner of distance and geography here, I think. You know.
Yeah. So I mean, you're absolutely right on the topic of, is it the kids up here that would leave if it's a distance issue? Or is it this 100 people from this line here that are a lot of green heading towards Glenwood? I mean, are you going to what are you going to capture back of that if you did something, if you did one of the options which is a all in Malvern versus splitting the 2 buildings? So you've heard me talk about top down and bottom up. I'm going to speed through the rest of this because there's a lot of people that just want to get to the voting of the options.
But I do want you to see some of the survey results. But this is our top down method of where you're at on a square footage analysis. So here at this building, you have a capacity for 368 students with 224 attending here. And then you have at your high school building a capacity of 278 with 223 attending there. So there's space in the buildings to be able to grow. Again, this is the top-down method. We also do a bottom-up version, and I've got all those spreadsheets I can share with you if you want to see them. Survey results. So this chart shows you between meeting 2 and meeting 5 where everybody is responding from, with the green line being Malvern, the blue line being identifying as rural, the gray as your Emerson area, and then the blue and yellow Hastings in Henderson, or the orange and yellow Hastings in Henderson. Can we agree to a East Mills first approach? Yes, we can. Can we agree that the education of the students should be number 1? Again, overall priority, yes. This process, where do we want to go? How do we get there and believe that it will result in the best solution for East Mills? Again, overwhelming yes. You understand this process, but specifically need more information on the following: long-term master plan and vision. That is what this process is trying to get us to a point where we have a master plan and a long-term vision that we are implementing. Some of the comments would like more information on the financial impact to the school district. We've kind of gone through that. You know, this $900 and some thousand that Matt just talked about that's directly to your general fund paying teachers. Everybody has responded previously in previous comments, paying teachers, retaining high quality staff. Those are all things that are very important to this district. And so those are real dollars that are not there to be able to pay those teachers or retain those teachers or expand those programs. Childcare. Again, childcare is a component that is important, but the school is not a daycare provider. They can give you space, but they can't run it. So there are pieces that as we move through this, if we want to identify some space for a daycare before and after school program, we can certainly do that. But again, it's not the school that can actually be the daycare operator. Long-term plans, schools should be in town. Country schools are a thing of the past. Do you feel that this process will produce a community-based solution with the support necessary to move forward with an East Mills first approach? Again, 42 yes to 17 unsure and 4 no. How important is the location of the school facility in your decision to support efforts to improve the district? Again, you can see down here where we asked location does not matter. We must maintain 2 currently locations that we have, the pre-K-12 all in Malvern, or the pre-K-12 all here at the elementary site. How important is transportation, drive time, in your support to move forward? 34 strongly agreed with that. 21 did not feel that the transportation was an issue. As a parent in deciding where your child will attend school, what are the factors? Standardized test scores. Number 2, length of travel and transportation. And then location, third is location of school in relation to work. We reviewed 3 options. So renovate both buildings, flip the program at both buildings. So this building would become the 712 and Malvern would become the elementary building, and then an all pre-K-12 at the Malvern. So we asked for those 3 options, how do those compare? So of the 3 options presented, which option did you feel was best? Relocate to the Malvern site. You can see we've also color coded those. Those questions have been asked based on who's participating in the surveys. Renovate both schools. Option B was next, and then the flip schools at the bottom. Of the 4 options presented, which option do you prefer? So this was back when we were having the 4 options in the meetings. You can see where the support was at based on the option. So the pre-K-12 in Malvern constantly is trending higher than the rest of them. The flip schools option is constantly trending at the bottom of the list. Of those 3 options then, which do you feel would have the most community support moving forward? Again, option E, pre-K-12 in Malvern, flip schools is at the bottom, and then the renovate schools on the left there with the responses. Of these 2 options, B and E, renovate both schools or relocate to Malvern, how do those compare? You can see again, those responses with the pre-K-12 in Malvern trending higher. The participation.
So is that what your results are, what your analysis is based on?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the Malvern point of view would prevail with more participation.
Yes.
No, that's cool. Just so we know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why that's on there that way. In general, how likely would you support a property tax referendum to improve the East Mills School District and the education of?
Highly likely with 49, very unlikely 5, and then 8 undecided. How likely would you support a property tax referendum that located pre-K-12 at Malvern only? 43 highly likely, 16 very unlikely, and 3 undecided. How likely would you support a property tax referendum that renovated both schools with no grade changes? 31 highly likely, 17 very unlikely, 14 undecided. And then how likely would you support a property tax referendum that flipped the schools? So again, that option is going to go away when we start asking you to respond again tonight. We also asked about, are you a property owner in the school district? Are you a registered voter in the school district? What type of, if you are a property owner, what type of property do you own? So you can see we've got a lot of residential property owners, a lot of agricultural property owners, and a couple of commercial property owners responding to the surveys. We also talked about focus groups. I'm going to skip all the focus group stuff for tonight, but that will become important once we know kind of the direction we want to head with this. Other comments. Flip to schools has not been popular on the survey, so why is it still an option? Again, it's an option because as an outside consultant, I think it is something that you should look at. But if it's not going to be supported by the community, then there's no point in pushing that forward. I feel the best option is K-12 in Malvern, but emotionally, I think maybe renovating both schools could pass easier. I think it's all a moot point if we cannot improve childcare in our communities because young new families will not move here.
Are you saying all that was again from the engagement meetings?
Yes,
That wasn't like
so at the end of every one of these,
to attend the meeting?
and we've left the surveys online
Okay,
for
so
2 weeks after.
they either attended or online,
Yes,
so they're motivated responders.
right.
You didn't just send it out to people.
So we've also done student surveys, parent surveys, and teacher surveys.
What was the first one?
Parent, student, and teacher surveys.
How'd you do those?
Again, online surveys, send them out. Students have laptops, one-to-one computers here. We send it out through the communication network that the school uses to communicate with parents, trying to get.
You didn't do much community. I mean, just like me. I mean, people without kids or anything, or no connection to school.
That's what this is.
Okay, that's cool.
I mean, if you have some ideas, we'd love to hear. I mean, we'd love to hear it because I know there's a lot of people would love to get more people at these meetings.
Well, I mean, I think that you're really talking about where's this place going to be. That's what you got to get down to.
So from a survey standpoint, this breaks down information on where your registered voters are, where they're located. So 53% of your voters are in Malvern. The black, the 47%, that's everywhere else. On our student survey, parent survey, and community survey, you can see that the green also represents where those respondents are coming from. So from a standpoint of consistency, the student survey, the parent survey, and the community survey, the pies are all very similar as far as where they're located and where they're responding from. The staff survey, that's the one that's a little bit different there. A couple of summary of comments from the parent survey. As far as ranking aspirations, first was improved shared spaces, your commons areas, your cafeterias. Last was improved greeting and reception spaces. Students would really love a paved parking lot and all-weather track. High quality education is important. Some updates may help with teacher retention and recruiting new employees to stay for more years. A common area outside for children to gather when the weather is nice. I want to be a school that is a destination for wider, more challenging educational opportunities, STEAM, industrial arts, creative arts, media, music, etc. Favorite place on campus, gym and the commons areas, mostly public spaces. Least favorite, parking lots, restrooms, the library. Metal woodworking shop, the kids really love this and seem to hang out there even if they have free time. High school needs more classroom space. The library has 2 classrooms in it. Bathrooms at both schools are outdated. Again, bathrooms and locker rooms haven't changed in decades. I like the elementary where it is, and the high school in Malvern. The small class sizes are great too. Also on the parents survey, factors that influence a parent's choice in school. The first was travel and location. The last is daycare and childcare. East Mills has an amazing staff that truly care for the children in the communities that they serve. East Mills does education very well. I feel that there is a perception that East Mills isn't a good school, possibly due to the dated facilities, but my kids are getting a great education. It seems like we've done this before. The trajectory of future population growth and potential enrollment must be considered. Further consolidation is in the future, whether we want to admit it or not. I'm more interested in having quality academic resources. I hope that our facilities will start to match the work I see being done within the walls of the school. Again, those are just some of the comments and high-level overview of this parent survey. On the staff survey, First, as far as aspirations, would better work and storage spaces. Last would be outdoor learning spaces. East Mills has really turned around its academics, and our test scores reflect that. It's time for our physical space to turn around and reflect that as well. Put the kids first. Too obsessed with the mementos of the past that do not represent East Mills as a whole. Things are still referred to as Nishna, Chantry, and Malvern. We have worked hard to get our academics and our activities to a competitive level. We are up in the top of our conference and in Southwest Iowa, but our facilities do not match that image. Issues about workspace, technology, temporary walls, and then just deferred maintenance, some water issues. Learning needs, wanting more comfortable furniture. A number of other comments, just some of these are specific to ventilation in the paint booth area, lacking technology and electrical outlets, things that we've seen that are just based on the age of the schools. I think students learn best when they are comfortable, and the chairs and desks might not be as comfortable for some students as they are for others. I think all students would benefit from flexible seating options. Again, staff, favorite place on campus, offices, classrooms, and the gym, least favorite place, bathrooms and locker rooms. There isn't much left of a library, and it's been parceled out due to needs for classroom spaces. The newer part of the building, it is updated and functions more like a school in this century. The library and the bathrooms in that area are far more functional than the older dated part of the school. Again, that's about this particular building. We also did a student survey. As far as students go with ranking aspirations, the first was general classroom improvements, and the last was improved administrative space. They don't care about the principals or the nurses' offices and things like that. The thing that makes East Mills special is that people care about the school, and we want the children to learn. Again, these are the student surveys. What makes my school special is the teachers and the hardworking kids. The cool thing about the school is that we have a big gym to run around. I am hoping the school is more exciting, like there's more color and more vibrant than it is now. I am hoping that our school will be more appealing to visitors, students, and parents. And I hope that improvements made to the school make it more welcoming, a more welcoming environment for new and existing students. Again, this is the student survey. Favorite place on campus, overwhelmingly was the gym spaces. Least favorite, again, bathrooms and locker rooms. The bathrooms are my least favorite place. Some of the doors don't lock at all. Paint is peeling. I like Mrs. Meyer's room, and I think it is better because she turns the lights off and has lamps. I feel like the lights in the other classrooms are super bright. I don't like the Spanish and library rooms. They should be different rooms. I like the gym because it's a place where you can just chill and have fun. It's my favorite because I have a lot of good conversations with my friends while playing in big group games. I don't like the garage area. It gives me headaches from the weird smell. That's the industrial arts space. Changes to the school, make the restrooms less smelly, add more color. I think that the building had a science lab for science and experiments and studying. East Mills does education very well. I feel like there is a perception that East Mills isn't a good school, possibly due to the dated facilities, but my kids are getting a great education. More color, it's very bland. I would say either renovating the classrooms or making the entire school wheelchair accessible would be a change that would make our school much better. This way, equal opportunities would be given for all students, and we would have improved spaces. Again, that's the student surveys. So when you overlay the community surveys, the parent surveys, the student surveys, and the teacher surveys with the different options, here's what we get. On the community survey, option E, which is the pre-K-12 in Malvern. On the teacher survey, it's a little more split with 17-10 on the renovate both schools versus the pre-K-12 in Malvern. On the student survey, overwhelmingly renovate both schools. And on the parent survey, it's split, but in the opposite from the teachers survey there, with 22 on the pre-K-12 in Malvern and 17 on renovate both schools. Again, nobody likes the flip schools option. When you look at which option do you like least, we did not ask that on the last community survey. Flip schools is what is liked least on the teacher survey and on the parent survey. The student survey, although they answered that they like to renovate both schools overwhelmingly, they also don't want to renovate both schools as what they like least. So there's a little bit of question there. So where do we want to be? So this is where we started with all these different options and these ideas. And this is where we're down to with option B and option E. So option E is a pre-K-12 site at Malvern, and option B is renovate the buildings and they stay as is. No more changing the program around, but that's where we're at. So option B, again, $15 to $24 million, you renovate both schools, students remain as is. So this is a pre-K 6 and Malvern building is a 7-12 building. So here at the elementary building, we do a series of renovations to bring some of the older spaces up to date and capture some space that's not being utilized as efficiently, making things more secure. At the existing junior senior high, there's some significant renovations throughout that entire building. So that's option B. I want to make sure everybody understands that, as we look at master planning, we would certainly want to make sure that both schools have that ability to be added onto with future phases as you move down the road. So that you're not doing an addition that then keeps you from adding classroom space to either particular building. So that's what this particular graphic is showing you for option B. Option E, pre-K-12, all in Malvern. Couple of additions for classrooms obviously would be needed and some activity space, some updated athletic fields, and then I have the daycare discussion as to what that actually wants to be as far as long-term need when you have a pre-K-12 building all on one site. Again, significant renovations to the existing building, along with the additions that you see here and some of the notes that you see here, possibly an additional gym, the additional classroom space so that it can all be a pre-K-12 all on one site. So to the elephant in the room, where do you want to be? And that's where we're at with this survey piece. Again, yes.
What kind of impact would it make on transportation budget by moving to one or leaving it as two separate facilities? Because I know for rural districts, transportation is a huge cost. Does it really impact or change our transportation costs by going to one location, no matter where it's at?
So let's just say, if you had everything here, so you're gonna bus kids this direction, that direction, et cetera, into here, okay? And if it's one site, you're not gonna be running potential back and forth during the day much at all. Okay? Same thing in mountains. If it's there, you can take everything in that direction, and again, you're not gonna have much back and forth once you get there. We stop and unload kids here and run them there and back and forth, so that would kind of go away at that point. So there potentially might be a little savings there, then maybe also adding additional miles. So it's probably
I just didn't know if that was ever taken really into consideration as far as overall costs are concerned, because year to year to year, transportation also just gets more expensive. But whether a two location, what the financial difference would be between two locations and one, regardless of where they're at, just if there would be much of an impact.
I think that this gentleman can tell you that if you have one site, it's much cheaper to run a school district. Obviously, transportation would be a part of that. That's overwhelmingly what people will say to you that do this for a living is you have one site, it's much more efficient all the way around, including transportation.
You still have to get those kids to and from school.
Right.
You rarely see significant transportation savings by going all to a pre-K-12 type of building.
Okay.
You see significant savings in utilities. The chart that I showed you where we have 80,000 square feet of space here in this building, and we're only utilizing, it has a capacity for 300 some students. We're down in the 200 some students. You're still heating and cooling this entire square footage. Operational efficiencies. You have redundant staff in multiple offices, multiple food service locations. Those sorts of things that, those are also elephants in the room. The school isn't here to employ people or provide jobs. They're here to educate the students. So by having those extra spaces like that, You just have extra dollars that are going towards things that are not directly to the education of the students. The big thing is just having one facility to maintain. One other efficiencies. Now you have all of your pre-K 6 students under one roof and your 7-12 under another. That's an efficient way to do that because you do get some efficiencies with your, say your CTE or those types of programs at your junior, senior high. They're all sharing one space like that. They're not split between buildings. So you're already doing that the way you have the building set up now. Those are just some of the things that come to the top of my head there. So from a survey standpoint, if you have a smartphone, we would like you to pull it out, go to menti.com, enter that code, and participate. If you do not have a smartphone, we have a couple of hard copies here. Raise your hand and I'd be happy to pass them out to you. Else need a hard copy.
There was a question on Zoom related to how long does either of these take? Both projects are significant rehabs of existing facilities. So there would be what we use in the industry, we use summer slams. So there'd be some summer slams that bookend a school year. There would be moving of kids and probably setting up some temporary classrooms in either facility, depending on the option that you have there. So for example, if this were to be a bond issue vote in September, it was likely that we could bid this project out in March timeframe to have things ready to go for that first summer slam of 22. Then you do construction for the entire school year in the spaces that you can, and then you bookend that with another summer slam component. So you're not actually occupying any of the facilities until the fall of 23, if that makes sense. There is not one of these options does not have a quicker turnaround than the other. kind of related to the question on timing, this is a chart that shows you some of where we're at with meetings. So this is meeting number 6. This is about where we plan to be as far as originally laying out a schedule for this. If the school board felt comfortable in moving forward with a bond election, the state dictates when those can happen. This year you have one in September, one in November, and then next year we have March, and then the following September. If you go for one in September, we would need to wrap up this process so that the school board can begin their legal pieces by the end of June. So that's this month. If not, then there's the November deadline. You have to wait 6 months if you run an election and it does not pass. You have to wait 6 months. So let's say you ran the one in September. You'd think you might be able to run another one in March. However, the dates that have been set for that by our legislature, that falls just shy of that 6 months by about a week. So you'd actually be the following September again. So you'd be waiting a year. So it's important that we have the information here and the input from the community for the school board to make a decision based on what they're seeing from the community input and how to move forward.
Are you saying that even if the community rejected the bond issue, you just would keep coming back and back? I mean, that's basically,
Sure.
you're alluding to another election every 6 months. So if you don't get what you want the first time, then we just keep going at it.
I'm alluding to that you should make sure that you've participated, you get your friends to participate, and that the school board feels that with the information that's been put in front of them, that they have enough information to be able to move forward with what the community is saying that's participating. You
You
can't
just allude to the fact, though, that you could have another election 6 months after the first one.
I think what he's alluding to is that legislators tie their hands.
Pardon me?
I think what he's alluding to is
First of all,
our legislators.
can people introduce them? I know she's like on the board. Who are you? And like, who are you? And are the board members here? I don't know anybody here. You're a board member, okay? And is this the principal here? Up here?
Junior senior high.
And
I'm the superintendent of schools.
okay, and you are with this bunch?
I am.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. So what was your comment?
I think what he's alluding to is that the legislators have now kind of tied your hands when you can and cannot have a bond election. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, you could run it periodically. Now it's only certain times. And what he's trying to tell you is, if you're going to run it so that you think what you've done is what people want, so it can pass the first time, so that it doesn't keep coming back 5 or 6 times.
That's my question. Like I said, Riverside went back to the well 5 times, and they just beat people down, frankly, until they just gave up and said, heck.
I'm not familiar with Riverside's process. You know, we do a process here where we openly engage the community.
Well, they did the whole the dog and pony show. I mean, they did the whole bit. See, this is political. I think what you're missing here is we're down to this is political. Okay. 60 years ago, this thing was formed out of 3 towns, Henderson and Emerson, and the 4 towns. And Malvern was over there, and I remember it very well. We could have done something then, but people decided not to do it. And you'll notice that this thing is in the middle of a cornfield. You know why that is? It's the approximate physical geographic center of this district. See, this is a history that you guys don't know. I mean, if you've been around here long enough, you see that. Okay, so we got this. A few years later, Malvern was in a big old red building, and they built, their names are on the plaque over there. Unfortunately, it's a 2-story building, right? Who knew, So now we've been, and every 10 years this comes around, either merging or, I was one of 80 people in this district that voted to merge with Malvern in the 80s. 80 people. Okay, so he knows I don't have a dog in this fight. I understand it. But every 10 years, somebody comes up with a bond issue or something. And the trouble is, and I gotta be totally honest with you, Malvern's got their little artsy thing going over there, and it's going pretty good. It's a nice little town. And the trouble is, you got Hastings, and I love Hastings, but I drove through there. A friend of mine had been here for 50 years, came the other day, and we went driving. And they're in sad shape, man. And I live near Henderson, and it's in sad shape. So you've got a bunch of people there who want a school, and they want to get suburbs, and they want to bring people out and all this stuff. And then you're wedded with I live in a ghetto. I'm sorry to say. So how are you going to reconcile this? I think this thing's already cooked in the book, and it's going to be, you're going to move it to Malvern, and that's going to be the deal. You're going through all this process. It's very nice, and we're all very appreciative of it. You may have a good point. I don't know what you're going to do with this place. I think that, the steps have been taken very methodically to get this going. People have been hired. People have been spending a lot of time on this. It'd be nice to spend time on like education and stuff, but I suppose this is a big deal too. I'm going to be dead and gone, so I don't care about this. My kids are gone. But I'm saying if your name's on this plaque out here, or whatever's new, you better make sure that you make the right decisions. Now, the things that have changed in the last year are COVID. Have you guys thought about, and I don't want the answer right now, what changes are going to be in the workplace and in schooling? I don't think kids want to be Zooming, but are there going to be changes? Are kids still having babies? I don't have a baby up and down. You can go from Highway 92 to Highway 34 on M16, and you got about 3 babies. So whatever you do, I'll be dead. But you've gone through 60 years of this crap. And I wish we just had, I wish I didn't have to deal with it. Frankly, I'm just mad that I got to be down here. I'm mad that it's an issue. We got to vote on it. We got to spend, we don't have that much money. It's not that big a deal. We look good, but it's just the whole deal. Where's it going to be? Fight, fight, fight. Vote, fight, vote again. I just am sick of it. That's just what I would say. But it's baked in the cake. It's going to happen. So just get on with it.
Something is going to have to be done. If you stay at those schools, you're still going to have to spend money to renovate this school.
I know,
and
it's a
that
mess.
school.
We're paying for the decisions that were made 60 years ago. The people who put this thing in the middle of a cornfield. The people who built something with, that wasn't handicapped accessible. Now we all got to pick up the pieces. It just makes me mad.
So John, if you went to the students that are here, and I don't know them, I don't live here. My question, because I work with about 95% of all the schools in Iowa. So I've been to all of them, big ones, little ones, country ones, city ones. This question comes up every single time. It's not unique to this district. But if you went to the students that went to school, go to school here right now, they don't give a shit if it's Malvern or where it is. They're a community. They go to school together. They're friends. They're colleagues. It's you, the adults, that are fighting about this for 60 years.
It's been going for 60
That's
years.
what I said. You guys need to get over it because it's been one community for 20 effing years.
You know what?
It's one
Let me tell
community.
you something, man. If you're into triage, you got 4 towns on life support here, and you got 1 town that might make it. Now, and I dig it. I get it. So you're going to try and save the one. Everybody, this is not an issue about education. This is an issue that people want to save now, man. You want to, you got your cafes and your, bike trails and everything is cool. And people come in there. I was riding my bike today. I said, if I came in here and I wanted to go to school, or my kids, I'd say, where do they go to school? They say, well, there's an elementary school out there 5 miles, on the highway, and then we got a high school here. And if you're buying a house here, you go, I don't get it, So I see how that works, but we're prisoners of what of our past. What are you going to do with this thing? Blow it up? Store corn in it? I don't know. You
So
tell me.
how many school districts do you think this district was 100 years ago?
I've got every mile, there's a little,
That's right. This was probably 50 or 60 separate school districts.
I get
It's
it.
about 8.
Nobody today is complaining about that their grandpa went to the.
I'm just telling you guys, you better you're on a roll, okay? This is an activist board. They've hired people who built before, and they're hiring people to build, and this thing's on a roll. And I'm just saying you're gonna do it. Just make damn sure you know what you're doing, and you look at what's happening trend-wise, COVID. Hell, people don't even have sex anymore, have babies. Think about it. Factor it into your stuff. That's all I'm telling you.
We do think about COVID. I mean, one thing that COVID has shown is that you can live wherever you want and work wherever you want. So you have people from all over coming back to their small town roots, and they can choose to live in rural Iowa, Southwest Iowa, and work for Facebook in Austin or one of those types of companies remotely, and then they can send their kids to a small town school.
I might come to Malvern, but I ain't gonna go to Henderson. I'll tell you right now, I've lived there all my life. You know, when as those houses disintegrate, they're gonna be torn down. That's the reality of it. I'll be dead. I don't care. I'm just telling you guys to be thinking about this stuff, man.
So are you thinking of, so is your issue with making sure that what we do in the future is the
You know
right
what?
thing
I don't
to
have
do?
an issue with it. I think it all looks like it financially, it looks okay. I just hate that we have to do it. I just hate that I've been stuck up for a year and we got to do this. I hate coming in here and arguing with my neighbors, or everybody thinks I'm a jerk, you know, or something because I speak out. I hate it.
There's no doubt that we have to do something with the 2 facilities that we have, period. That's a no-brainer.
It's not the 20 mil. I mean, hell, we're at 9.5. I can deal with that. You know, that ain't as bad as I thought. But the big issue is not that. It's where's it going to be? And what's it going to be? You guys are just walking past the graveyard whistling, man. And that's the big issue.
No, we've looked, when you look at those charts and you see from Malvern West, 100 kids going to Glenwood, and those 100 kids are worth 7,500.
But they don't like the dog food. And I've talked to everybody about education. And I've come down here and talked to people about how to get improved education. I haven't heard education just mentioned cursory here, like, oh, the best thing for the kids. You know, education is in big trouble, man. And somebody better get a handle on it.
So that's $750,000.
You could bring people in here by having a magnet school that would kick butt on stuff instead of just building facilities and stuff. You know, it just kills me that, you know, everybody stinks in the same box. Let's just build a school and have a weight room and, you know, let's have a paved. My mother lived up by AL. And I look out over there, there's a 5-acre concrete parking lot for the kids. 6-inch deep concrete for the kids to park. You can put a kid I subbed here for 10 years. And you can put a kid in a Butler building or a pole building and teach them. You don't need all this stuff.
But you need the teachers.
Tell me about it.
Now, $750,000
All
pays.
I'm just ranting on. I'm just saying, I'm done. You know, you guys are on a roll. It's going to happen. Just make sure you know what you're doing. That's all I urge you. That's your responsibility. That's why you're hired. That's why you're elected. I was on a school board for 2 years. It was the worst time of my life. And I didn't run again. And this is why. So, okay.
Other questions, comments? Want to follow that?
One of the things you got to remember, even though you mentioned about saving Malvern or whatever, if, and this is not a possibility, but sometimes it gets thrown out there like it is. If, and it's crazy thoughts, if this district were to dissolve, we would be paying higher. We'd be paying the Glenwood rate of 15 or the Red Oak rate, or whatever, than we currently are. So that's another thing.
We need to think about educating kids.
I'm
not as worried about levies and stuff as I am.
understand that.
These kids are failing, and
our kids are comparable and doing very well.
My
Well,
kids are in school, they're not.
compared to, you know,
I have a kid in college that's not failing.
my kids have done all right. My kids went here.
So the education
My kids
is
have done
getting
great.
really good.
But I've also taught in these classrooms, and I'm telling you, you know, generally, it's the education you gotta worry about, not facilities.
So I would like to introduce myself. I'm Lindsay Sayers. This is finishing my 17th year teaching here. I'm the lead teacher at the high school. So I look at data a lot. I lead staff professional development every Monday, full days throughout the year with Melissa Nielsen in this building. And I like how you're talking about education because to me, I've said that for years. Like that's what we need to do. Doesn't need to be shiny. We need to improve education. And so right now, our ACT scores are higher than they've ever been. Our IELTS assessment scores, which aren't public yet, are out of this world. And so we are doing that, but we just don't have the facilities to match that.
Where do you think it should be?
So I have multiple, I'm a business owner. I'm a single parent. I have students in this building or in this district. I teach here. So I think it's whatever the group decides and people that are invested in this and take the time to learn and vote, that's where it should be.
Where do you think it should be?
See, I am not a jerk about it. I perfectly see Malvern's point, but it's political, man. They've got a nice
What is it?
deal going there.
Everything's political today.
Hmm?
Everything's political.
Tell me about it. That's why you spent an hour on the finances. You know, you could have got right by that and got down to this. This is where it's at. Where's that place going to be? How are you going to go to people in Henderson? And, or see, I think that the strategy is you're going to be willing, and this is, hey, it's a brutal world. You're willing to let the Henderson and the Emerson, those people go opt out if you can grow Malvern. That's what I think. That the powers that be, you know, the Marilyn Burdick's still directing stuff from heaven. You know, we're going to have a school in Malvern no matter what the hell happens. You know, and that's what's going to happen. You know, and hell if high water, I can see it. If I was coming in from, you know, New York City or Ohio, the town, that school there, but what are you going to do with this? This was done. People made decisions. They were elected. They spent our money. We were told 10 years ago we had to pour a bunch of money into this place and build on over here. You know, now it's all going to be what? I don't know what you're going to do with it. Good luck. You know, blow it up. You know, I don't. That's the question that I got. But let's not beat around the bush, man. You know, we know where it's at. You know, this thing's in motion. You know, you can hire when you hire a survey, you get what you want. You know, we hire you, you're coordinating it, fine. You know, you're an advocate. You're here to build. You're here to do something. You know, so let's rock and roll. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the Iowa flag and you know, what are you going to do with this crap? You know, what are you going to do with the mural out front? Have to move it. Brick by brick. I'm just presenting this, man. I don't know. I don't have to. I serve my. And I don't want to dominate this. I'm just saying that the bottom line on this is political. It's, you know, people want it in Malvern. It would help Malvern. Henderson's a dying town. Hastings, they've tried. It ain't going to be happening. So what are you going to do? I don't know. That's why you got to get the big bucks.
I have to say, I've been to most of these meetings. I missed the first one or two, but I've been very impressed with all of the professionals that you brought in to evaluate everything. I really appreciated the clarity of everything that's been presented, and you've answered any question that comes up as far as I'm concerned. So kudos to all of you.
The difficult part of this, though, is to see the trend lines of where the votes are coming in from. And we live in the rural part, but what's disappointing is to see, you know, single digit numbers coming in from some of our other towns. And when I ask friends, we still have 3 kids in the district. We have one in college. And I'll ask other parents, the kids in my kids' classes, and they're like, well, we're gonna be out of here before anything starts, so I'm not even getting involved. And it's very frustrating. I've like, just do it anyway, please. If you're gonna be staying in the district, you've got decisions to make. How are you going to invest in this? And that's the part that is frustrating. And John, I agree. It's this, I wish there was a better way to get a hold of more of the folks in our communities. It's really, the apathy is painful.
The frustrating thing is, we've talked to I don't know how many people to try to come to these meetings. They won't come to me, but they will show up to vote.
Yeah.
They will show up to vote. I'll guarantee you that. And a lot of people will not stand for throwing away probably the best facility of the two, just to throw it away. I know that there's people that feel that way. And they feel that this, of the two buildings, this probably is the best facility. Location, no, but the facility probably the best. And you're gonna have a difficult time getting 60% of the people to throw away a building.
Is there any thought what you do with this place?
You know, you can't hold up the process of moving forward with what the school needs by trying to figure out what to do with something like this. In our past experience, it's the school makes the decision to move forward with something. Then when this becomes available, that's when you start to have real interest in whatever its next life might be.
There is no life for this. There is none.
I wouldn't say that.
There's none.
Could be like Farragut School.
Great text.
Turn into a prison. I'm telling you, prison.
We spend more in prisons than we do in schools.
I do know that.
Exactly.
I don't know a lot of people here were new to the district, but I did the Zoom on the last meeting, and the open roll out surprised me. But I do think that a lot of that has to do with the fact of location of the elementary, just because a lot of people were, you know, if they're where the population is when they're heading to work, it's 6 miles out of your way, 6 miles back. And with previous, you have a lot stronger administration now than what they've had in the past. And like I said, we just open rolled in this year from a neighboring district that has nicer facilities. I mean, it's not, but you guys have a really good, strong core administration. And I think that open enrollment number is going to start to change because I mean, education here is good. You know, just things do need to be up. I mean, I don't care. We'll support whatever everyone decides, you know, but something does need to be done to support, I mean, so that the outside of the school has the same feel that it was going on the inside. I mean, there's been a lot of changes in the East Middle School District for the better, and it hasn't shown up on those charts yet because those are from years past. You know, there's not, last year, there's not your assessment scores because there wasn't assessment. Your open enrollment trend isn't really going to start. You know, there's, I mean, we have 3 kids that open enrolled in, and just in one of my daughter's class, within the time from February now, there's 3 other kids that open enrolled in. Just, I mean, so a lot of that other money that you're sending to other districts is probably going to start to come back because people are realizing how good the school is on the inside with strong leadership. You know, they put a stop to problems before it gets to be a big problem. I don't know if I'm rambling or making any sense, but it is a good district. And like I said, we're new, and it was a hard choice to move from a district we lived in for it's been awesome for our family and for our kids.
If excuse me, if the district and community decides that we're gonna go a certain direction, and this is part of the problem, is this facility, if that's not the direction it goes. The other places I've been, like what he says, it kind of takes care of itself. Okay, last thing we want to do is to blow it up, as you said, okay? We need to find something that is viable for us as a district, whether it's something with Iowa Western, whatever. I mean, there's options to look at. Could be something like what you said with Farragut, with the, you know, all the apartments, those kind, I mean, that comes at that point. Other places I've been, when we've moved into different facilities, every one of those has become something, okay? One became a public library, one became a place for antiques. They sell antiques out of, so I mean, there's different things that they become that we had no idea that would even be a conversation. So, to answer your question, can't sit here and tell you tonight that if it goes one direction, that I have an answer of what this facility would or would not become. I don't have that at all.
So just a reminder, there is a project website. So if you didn't do the survey tonight, you can log in and do that later. You can also go back and watch the previous 5 community engagement meetings. You can check out, there's PDFs of the slides, there's all the information there on what we've done from, on all of those previous meetings. Are there any questions from the Zoom crowd?
No, maybe comments.
Does the school board anticipate making this, I know you said you're gonna do something this fall, you don't decide this month, do you think that's what will happen?
The facilities committee will meet and hash things out and make a recommendation. So that needs to happen.
And then the decision is whether it's potentially a September thing or a November thing as well. So there's, you know, if we don't think we're ready for the September thing, then there's a November option. Both of those come back to September as best.
Well, thank you all for coming. I'll stick around and answer any questions you didn't want to ask in front of everybody.
Those of you that filled out the paper. Pick them up.